All right, good morning, you guys. Today we're going to look at gradients in Illustrator. Gradients are super fun to use. They help give your work kind of a three-dimensional feel, making things kind of having that rounded edge or having things go from light to dark. They're a lot of fun and they take a little time to play with to kind of really get them to where you want them. And if you look up tutorials, there are so many crazy ways to use gradient tools. So let's just look at like the general way of making one. I'm going to just draw and start with the square and make a square here, or vector. You could use any shape. And then I'm going to go to gradient, select gradient. Now my gradient is up here, my gradient little toolbox. But if you don't have yours, you can't find it, you always can go to window up at the top and have all of your different tools you can always select anytime you can't find something, which is really nice. So I'm going to go click on gradient, and this is going to pop up here. And yours might already have colors set up, but I'm just going to click on this bar, and you'll notice that now my square has a gradient created, and yours might be black and white. It all depends. I was working on some things ahead of time, so it had saved some of that information. But what you'll notice is there are a couple different options here. And this is my gradient bar, the gradient slider. And you might want to just see what happens when you play around with this little slider. You can control where the gradient occurs. You can also click on your little color stops and you can move the gradient, and that'll change its characteristics as well. You can move this one. You can also add gradients as well. So you can add color stops on this bar. So what you can do is if you hover around the edge, you can see how the cursor has a little plus sign next to it. So anytime you click on the bottom edge of the color slider, you can add as many as you want. So now I have 5, and I'm going to just play with those. Notice how they took up the color where I clicked. If you want to change the color to any of your color stops, you'll just double click and you can change the color. All right, boom. Let's say you want to delete one of these color sliders. You would just click on one of them and you'll hit the little trash can right next to it. Maybe I just want 3. All right. All right, you can play with the little slider. There are other properties to change as well. So right now I have an outline for some reason. I don't know why. I don't want that. You can also change the direction of where the gradient is happening, thinking about 360 degrees. So you can type in your own number if you want, or you can use these predetermined sets. So 90 degrees, we'll switch it that way. Negative 30, we'll switch it that way. And you can play with it. Maybe you're like, I really want it to be 49 degrees. Well, you can type that in too, and it'll do it for you. Another cool thing about gradients is you can change them to either be linear or you can change them to be radial. So this is what happens when you have a radial gradient. You can play with that. Maybe you're working with a circle shape, and maybe it makes more sense to have a bunch of different like radial gradients there. Oops. All right, I'm playing with that. So we looked at the different angles. We've looked at the different color sliders, how to change colors. And then you can get even more intense. Depending on which color stop you select, you can change its opacity. So if you want it to be more clear, all right, or more transparent, you can do that. Maybe have it, you can play with that. I'm going to move back to 100% here with all of these. I'm just clicking on the different color. Maybe I changed the opacity for the pink one. Let's go back to linear. Okay, I'm moving a little bit quickly, so apologies. You do something like that. So if I change the opacity with the pink one, when I go and move it over, you'll notice how there'll be some opacity there. That's kind of interesting. Again, this takes some playing with. When you get used to it, then you'll start to really see what you can actually do, and maybe you can find some really cool uses for it in your illustration. Okay. All right, still playing with the gradient here. And the last thing, again, there's a lot of things you can do, but the last thing, one other tool to use is the freeform one. So I'm just gonna move mine around here. I have now 4 different color stops, make them all 100 now, just because. And these are different types. So we have, remember, the linear and the radial, and we have freeform. And freeform, it always changes the color on me. I'm not exactly sure why. But now the freeform, you move the color stops anywhere you want in your shape. And so I'm going to change this color to maybe that blue I had earlier. Maybe a dark blue or something here. Let's see. Anyway, and now what I can do, I can actually click on the color stops and I can move them anywhere I want. This is the coolest thing. You're not gonna get any work done today, you guys, because you're just gonna be playing with gradient tools. You're just gonna be moving things around. This is good stuff to put in your process journal though. Okay, let's see, I'm gonna change that color, that pink. Oh man. So I have no idea where this is going, but that's super cool. So that's the freeform setting in gradients. So let me show you how I'm going to actually use it in my illustration, because that's pretty trippy compared to what I'm doing here with Bill. So what I did is I actually drew a shape underneath his beard where I think like, oh, I might have a use for a gradient here, maybe some gradients in the shadows and areas around the facial features, or I might make some crazy background, who knows. But I got this shape right here I'm working with, and I'm going to actually click on this gradient, even though I don't really need any of these colors. I'm going to delete most of them. And I'm going to actually, I want to select this peach color. So I'm going to use my color picker, and I'm going to click on my color scale. All right. And I'm going to click on this color stop, pick on my color picker, and maybe pick this light blue. Well, let's go. Yeah. Okay. All right. And now when I go to freeform, let's see what happens here. Oh, it changes the color again. In any case, I'm going to go zoom up on here and click on this one and pick maybe this blue here. Okay. And for this one, I'm going to maybe, hello. Oh, I got to click edit gradient. I'm going to double click on this one and select the peach. And now what I can do is I can move this around, maybe see like where it makes sense to have this gradient. And I can move this one around closer to maybe the bottom of his neck here. It's getting weird here. Let's see. I kind of liked it where it was before. Maybe I'll move this up here. And then it gets really fun. Then you can start playing with where you want gradients to be. I'm going to delete this outline here. See if it'll let me. And there we go. All right, I don't know where that's going right there, but it takes some playing with, but I might start to add some more gradients in and around his face, and then by doing that, it might be more uniform. So definitely play with the gradient today and just have fun learning how to use the tool, and maybe it becomes part of your illustration, maybe it doesn't, but at least give it a shot because it's a really, really cool to use. Maybe look up some tutorials of how to use gradient tools in Illustrator. You're going to find so many amazing things. So give it a shot and save all your work and just have fun with it. All right. Good luck.